Oh, I'm seeing these two books, The Myth of the Lazy Native and Intellectuals in Developing Societies, in its new editions. The cover has had a makeover, so completely different from the plain covers of the Frank Cass 1977 editions. I write about the publishing history of these two books in my own book because I think it's very important to understand how a writer feels about the publishing process. It can be very challenging, very disappointing, very nerve-wracking, very exciting. And my father went through that whole process. As I write in my book, it took years from the finishing of the writing of the two manuscripts to the actual publication. We're talking about 1972, 73, and it was published, the books came out in 1977. And actually, it was this book, Intellectuals in Developing Societies, that he wanted to get published first. And he casually mentioned to the editor, who happened to be actually a translator of James Joyce, so there's an interesting literary connection there. He happened to mention the title, The Myth of the Lazy Native, and the book description. And the editor was struck by that book, and he said, send us the manuscript of Myth. So it turned out that Myth was published a few months before Intellectuals in Developing Societies. The books came out together in the same year. Now, a lot has been spoken about and written about Myth. You know, some people, because of all the hype, some people will pick up the book, they will try to read it, and they'll say, yeah, so boring la. And which is understandable. It really depends on who you are, how old you are, what your personal interests are. It's not a commercial read. I mean, you're not going to get a good plot or a love story in this book. But you are going to find stories about how colonials treated natives, and there are always interesting stories there. And then you're also going to learn something about how the ruling class treats Malaysians. So there's another interesting story there. Obviously, people who will go through the book, who will take the trouble to read it, who will engage with the arguments, are people like us, because we study these things. But I'm slowly seeing that Malaysians are becoming more interested in the book as just a general readable text, as a piece of social and cultural history. And that has something to do with the style as well, because it's not strictly academic. So with any book, I always tell my students, get through the initial hurdle, the difficulty of it. Books are meant to be difficult, but if there's something you're trying to get to, trying to understand, you will plod through the text. You will, because you're looking for something. It's like a journey. It's like an adventure, and so I will encourage people not to be discouraged by the history of it. Look for the stories. Look for the relevance to Malaysia, and look for its place in global history as well. Laziness is a universal theme. The theme of work and how we treat workers. These are all global universal themes, and this is part of the reason for why the book has had significant international success. It's considered to be one of the classics of post-colonial and decolonial theory. It's been translated into a few languages. So, it's quite interesting that a book which was never a commercial success when it first came out in Malaysia and Singapore and was first distributed here, has now become a classic, which is something I study and write about in my own book. You don't have to have all the hype. You don't have to be famous or sell, thousands of copies to make your book relevant and important and to make it make a difference.